I'm Al McFarlane back at Mall of America, here for the A. Philip Randolph Institute National Education Conference. We're at the Radisson Blu Hotel. I'm pleased to talk to two members of the Board of Directors of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. APRI is referred to in short. Here with me is James E. Price Jr., who is the director. He's also the Director of Government Employees Department for the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers. Joining us also is Kevin Mapp, who is with the United Steel Workers. He's with the District 2, Sub-District Director for District 2, USW, based in, I think, Taylor, Michigan? Yes. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Let me start with you, James Price, and talk about how important labor is to the black community, to our movement, to our development as a community and as a people.
I can tell you that.
And bring the mic up close to you there.
I can tell you that basically it's very important to the African American community, specifically in the role that I play for the Machinists Union right now. And that is as Director of the Government Employees Department. If you go back in history, and especially in Washington, D.C., the African American community actually had jobs that they got in the federal government, which raised their incomes and put them in the middle class. Government work actually raised that boat up for all of our folks in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and as well as all across the country. If you got a government job, you basically had a Cadillac job, if you will, and the benefits that went along with it. So that's basically where we are right now. That's all under attack, by the way, by this administration.
Well, it has been, I think, since the Reagan administration and the air traffic controllers.
That set the tone, yes, sir.
It set the tone, but it seems that despite that, there was a countervailing increase of engagement in our community.
Absolutely.
Black enrollment in labor, I think, continued to increase.
That's correct. It did.
And so, where are we now?
Right now, we're on the tipping point. I think we're at a point where it's time to either put up or shut up. We have to basically engage our community to stand up, to go back to organizing. We have to get our leaders out to organize these folks, because this next election is going to be one that will be won by blacks and browns in this country. You could take this all the way back to history. History is like a circle. It repeats itself. We need another March on Washington like A. Philip Randolph actually did in the very beginning to win some of those rights back that we've lost over a period of time.
Let me turn to Brother Kevin Mapp. Thank you for being here. I hope you're enjoying Minnesota, so welcome to both of you. But tell your story about why and how you've emerged as a leader in the steelworkers.
Well, my father was a steelworker. He hired in right after the Great Steel Strike of 1959. My mother was a steelworker. I'm from a family of steelworkers, born, raised.
In your blood.
So, in 95, I hired into U.S. Steel. Well, at the time, it was actually National Steel. And National Steel was eventually bought out in 2003 by U.S. Steel, the National Steel facility I worked at. So, being from a union family and seeing the issues that we were having within the mill, I decided to start, getting involved in the local. Ran for local positions and was successful, and eventually ran for a full-time position in the mill. But going back, as far as your original question is, why is union so important to African Americans in this country, or people of color? And not just African Americans, people of color. From 59, when my dad hired in 1959, he wanted to become a skilled tradesman. But in 1959, a black man couldn't become a skilled tradesman. Even though he was in a union, he couldn't become a skilled tradesman.
Be a laborer.
He could be a laborer. Right. He could work on the blast furnace. He could work at the coke plant. He could work in the dirtiest, nastiest jobs in that mill.
Listen, my father was a packing house worker. Same story, exact same story.
So, in 1972-73, the consent decree came across, which allowed, forced the steel companies to allow African Americans, people of color, to move around the mill, use their seniority, bid on jobs, and it also forced the mills to hire women. Before then, there were no women in the mill except for during World War II. So that gave African Americans, women, great opportunities in the steel industry. It allowed them to work the higher paying jobs, go into skilled trades. When I hired in, that was my last year my dad worked. He stayed in my face. You already passed the test, go to skilled trades. I went to skilled trades.
That's right.
Just to get them off my back.
That's right.
So, and that led to, actually skilled trades led to everything else. Moving around the mill, doing the apprenticeship program, meeting a bunch of people, doing the apprenticeship program. And once I finished the apprenticeship program, became a journeyman, deciding that I wanted to get involved in the union. And I knew a lot of people because of the trades. My whole story was started by him.
So how critical is the continuing work of the A. Philip Randolph Institute? You both are directors of this organization. It's a storied legacy institution. The principals, organizers of it, giants in every aspect of the word. Giants not only as black men, not only as organizers, but as human beings. They exemplified the best humanity has to offer. And so how important is it for you to be here today to advance that work still?
Well, the way I see A. Philip Randolph, and especially my chapter that I, work with in Detroit, is to engage the community, to get out in the community, get to know the people, engage the churches, and get the vote out. Register people to vote. We're in the high schools, we're in the churches in Detroit. We're anywhere there's a group of people. And we believe that it's not just registering people to vote. It's getting people to the polls. We poll watch. We provide transportation to the polls. We have a facility on East 7 Mile, a building that we use. We do phone banking out of there. We pay people during GOTV, my chapter of A. Philip Randolph, doing GOTV to knock doors, to phone bank. Let me straighten that out. We pay them a minimum of $15 an hour. If you preach it, you got to do it.
That's right. So, James, back to you. What's the marching orders that you all are bringing to not only your members, but to those who are listening in my community here? I can tell you that you've got a great union presence in Minnesota. Minnesota has a great union history. Be that as it may, there still is often a disconnect at the grassroots. And so I know that the leadership here is interested and serious about engaging the way you have described. What can you do? What should we be doing to ensure that the message and the opportunity are reaching and engaging our people?
Our president, Cleola Brown, says this all the time. It's something that the kids say. We got to stay woke.
That's it.
I mean, it's amazing to me how we, people of color, whether you're black, brown, yellow, we don't go vote. The reason we're in the situation that we're in right now is because if you go back to 2016 and look at the numbers, African Americans set that one out. We can't afford to do that. We cannot afford to do that. We have to get out. We have to vote. So, as Kevin said, and our chapter does some of the same things, knocking on doors, voter registration. We got to get out there and get the message out, because if we don't, unfortunately, I'm kind of a honest person here. Labor won't exist. Those jobs that we're talking about that we represent today won't be there, because this administration will tear them completely apart. I want to go back to something that Kevin said as well on the consent decree. I came out of the aerospace industry. I worked for McDonnell Douglas and then Boeing. That consent decree, and that was before my time, okay, that took people from cleaning bathrooms and emptying trash at McDonnell Douglas and sweeping floors to being inspectors, machinists. Could actually, it's a historical fact that if you sit around and you don't vote, consent decrees like that don't come about. It just doesn't happen. So we have to stay woke. We have to address our politicians and our local civic leaders, and we got to talk to our people. This is a grassroots thing. If it ain't happening on the ground, it ain't happening in D.C. Trust me, I live there.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Continued success. Thank you for being in Minnesota. Thank you for the leadership and the important work of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. My guest, James E. Price Jr., Director of Governmental Employees Department of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, based in D.C., I believe you said, right? Yes. And also Kevin Mapp, who's a Sub-District Director for the United Steelworkers. He's based in Taylor, Michigan, both directors of APRI. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Take care. You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And we'll talk to more people later. Stay tuned.